Hello, I am Gary Wickham, CEO and co-founder of Magro.
Gary Wickham co-founded Magro in 2013 and is CEO of its pioneering AgriTech business. Magro aims to provide the best technology solutions for customers to grow their crops in a sustainable way and plays its part in solving some of the greatest food and water challenges facing the planet.
My love of science started with my dad. My dad was a microbiologist. He worked for the Eastern Health Board, and I remember when I was young, he used to bring me to work on Saturday mornings. And I remember two things distinctly. One, trying to keep up with him because he walked so fast, and number two, he let me play with the microscopes in the laboratory. They were working on food poisoning and salmonella, and I remember being fascinated looking under those microscopes at bacteria and other organisms on food. And I just became hooked on science, and that was my early introduction to it. I then went on to do an applied science degree around physics, chemistry, mathematics. And then I started in Loctite, my very first job as a process chemist. And when I started in Loctite, it was a very unionised environment. I had to get to work with people across different sectors in the business. My job was to do a technology transfer. So take products from R&D, move them into manufacturing in a seamless way, to make sure those products had the right quality, were delivered on time at the right cost, and scale those products into pretty large volume products under a lot of complexity. And it was during this period that I met probably one of the most influential people that I've met in business, the ex-CEO of Loctite. And he used to be in the States a lot, and on one of his visits to Ireland, he was walking around the shop floor, and I spoke to him and I said, you've just come back today and you've gone straight around talking to the people on the shop floor, is there a reason behind that? And he said, Gary, if you take care of them, they'll take care of your customer and everything else will fall the right way. And I'll never forget that, and it's a philosophy that I still use today. And then once I had that experience, I then went to Reheis, which is part of General Chemical, and I became MD of their pharmaceutical actives business, learned good manufacturing practice. And then I was at kind of a crossroads. Would I go into a multinational? Pfizer wanted me, Henkel wanted me again, and other businesses. But I decided to jump into entrepreneurship. And I got together with another guy. We met in my house for 9 months in the dining room of my house, putting this plan together. And I was the one that jumped ship to get Stay City up and running. And then we grew that to where it is today, 125 million revenue, several thousand staff, and operating in 15 plus cities. But I always wanted to get back to technology. I am a technology guy, and with another guy, David Moore, my co-founder, Magro, we moved into Nova UCD, an incubator in University College Dublin, and set up Magro. And that was a tiny little office, just tiny little desk between the two of us, paid for everything on my credit card. David focused a lot on the product. I tried to do everything else, funding, build a team, patent the technology. And it was in those early days that I knew I needed help. It's lonely being a CEO, and I saw EI had this mentor program. We became an Enterprise Ireland client early on, a high potential startup, which was really invaluable. And they had this mentorship program, and they offer, to meet a mentor every month for 12 months, and they paid for that. And so I put a profile together, and they sent me a list, and I picked this guy. And to this day, the power of networks, that gentleman has helped me find the first lady on my board, who's an impact investor. She found the chair of our board. He found other supporters in the US for me. From those little seeds and those conversations, a lot can happen. From there, we grew Magro to where it is today, over 50 staff all over the world in 14 countries, solving some of the greatest food and water challenges this planet has faced by helping farmers to grow more food using less. There's a lot of misconception around sustainability. People think, it's not sexy, you're not going to make money in that business. I would argue the opposite. There's huge opportunity. Yes, you will make money, but you're actually doing good for the world. So there's three key reasons why people should get involved in sustainability. The best way to think about our technology is that we're treating the fluid. We're creating unique droplet profiles. So when you do that, you can do all sorts of wonderful things, both inside and outside the droplets. So we, as well as developing products for greenhouses and for drones, we're working on, we've developed a product for small farm holders. And I'm really passionate about that because small farm holders represent about 500 million farmers around the world. And they are the poorest of farmers around the world. They can barely or can't in most cases feed their own families. So we need to change that they can feed themselves and then help feed the world, because there's a lot of land in Africa, but they don't have the productivity. And also with our technology, we are going to develop it for soil regeneration, which is very topical at the moment, to regenerate our soil. It's estimated that we've only 60 growing seasons of soil left. Soil takes generations to develop. That is going to become a chronic issue. We have a technology in that area, and also for foliar spraying of fertilizers to stop nitrogen runoff into the soil. So everything we do is about using less to do more so we can live in a better place. And the team that I work with are as passionate as me. We're like a bunch of friends on this mission to try and do our part and save the world. Every day I think about how, when I talk to customers, we can make it a win-win. I talk to them about what is their problem and how we can help them to fix that problem. Some have a water challenge, some have a labour challenge, some have others. But we can fix all those problems. And then how can you finish that circle by having the retail group that's selling food to the consumer, where they have a sustainability agenda? You can tick their box and get them more serious. So what we're trying to do in Australia, for example, we're working with two big retail groups who have a sustainability agenda, and the win-win we're doing there is the farmer saves a ton of money, saves resources, saves the planet, he's growing sustainably, he doesn't need to buy more land. On the other side, the retail group is ticking their sustainability box and is talking about funding the acquisition of our technology for farmers. That's a real win-win. And so we looked at something and said, wow, it is a challenge, but what an opportunity. Since I've come on this planet, the population of the earth has gone from 3.4 billion people to 7.8 billion people, and it will hit 10 billion people by 2060. We need to grow the equivalent of the last 10,000 years of food in 40 years. That's the challenge facing the world. And yet we're using over 80% of the total available water alone for agriculture in California, Asia and Africa. In the 70s, we had the Green Revolution, where we had increased mechanization and we had the advent of crop protection products, or pesticides as we know them, to help us drive up the number of tons of food per acre or hectare that were delivered. We're now reaching a standstill in terms of growing that further. So if we have 70% more food to grow in the next 40 years to feed all these people, or as the UN said, at the current consumption rates, we need 1.6 planet Earths, or by 2050 we need 2 planet Earths. That's not sustainable. And the only way we're going to solve that problem is through innovation. The issue is this 70% waste this compromise between drift and coverage. No technology solves that problem until now. And that's where Magro steps in. Magro solves that compromise by getting these products, vital crop protection products, on target, but nowhere else. We dramatically reduce that waste. And I'll give you an example. We have a cotton grower in Alabama. He started using Magro technology and immediately cut down his water and started spraying with the smaller droplets with our technology 950 acres a day instead of his usual 500 acres a day. So suddenly he's way more productive, using less water, less labour, which is a big challenge for farmers in the States. And now he's cut down his chemical by 30%. He's getting higher yield, so we are now using less to do more, what we all need to do to meet the food and water challenge going forward. He's creating less waste, using less water going in. He needs less sprayers, less diesel, minimising his carbon footprint. And because our system has no maintenance, there's no cables, parts or moving wires, he has no downtime. So he can be really productive and drive up the number of acres. So that means he doesn't need to buy more land. So Magro is helping the farmer, the community, the dealer and the consumer to be truly sustainable. I've had 2 successful startups back to back. 9 out of 10 startups fail. In fact, I think it's 9.5 for AgTech. So in terms of route to market, I think I've come across a model that suits me, that works. I think you need a dose of luck. I think you need a really understanding partner. In my case, my wife, I had 3 young kids. I gave up a pretty big job with a multinational, gave everything up, remortgaged the house, and we set up Stay City. And the model I used then with Stay City is that we need to be different. We need to disrupt the model. In that particular case, people were going to your booking.coms and, giving 30% of their revenue away. We looked and said, what if we could drive the cost per person down using an apartment model? What if we could get most of our bookings through our website? And that's what we did. And what if we got rid of all the ancillary services you see in 3 and 4-star hotels? So we were working off a really low cost base for acquiring a guest and converting high occupancy on that model and making sure we had a city centre. We were asked, did we want to go to peripheral locations? We stuck to our guns on our model, which was a city centre. In terms of Magro, totally different problem. We had a massive problem to solve. We had a brilliant technology, a massive market. But what I needed to do there, I talked about these 4 pillars and the scientific pillars. I needed to find mentors. I needed to find experts from AgTech, never been on a farm in my life, who knew what they were talking about, whose opinion I could respect, who could advise me. And the one thing I would say to budding entrepreneurs is that, don't have any shame. Tell people you need help. People that know me know that I'll always ask for help. There's no room for entrepreneurs to have egos. Roll up your sleeves, hard work, identify that problem, market and opportunity. And if I look at startups, what are the 4 biggest things why startups fail? The 4 biggest factors are the team. They either don't get on or they're the wrong fit, the wrong product market fit, the wrong business model, or they run out of cash. So they're the problems you need to look at the beginning. Can you solve those problems? Can you raise funds to get yourself up and running? Involve people like Enterprise Ireland. And I'll talk about my network. My network is about quality rather than quantity. I choose the people that I want to talk to. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean it in that I think they're the people that can help me. So don't underestimate your network. Again, no room for egos. Don't be ashamed to ask. People will respect you for it and understand that you want their help. And if you ask for help, take it. Going back to the beginning, when I started, I think I mentioned earlier on that, I think you need to learn certain skills, how to delegate. You have to learn to say no to outsiders and insiders. If you're too tired and you're exhausted, it's going to affect your team. You're not going to deliver. So you need to learn good delegation skills. So I think I'd love to have delegated earlier than I did, to learn to delegate to the level I do today. And that means trusting your staff, empowering them, and there are other skills that you need to develop. Also, I think I became good after 2 or 3 years at that when you had a failings or an error or mistake, to pivot quickly and be decisive. And so I think the final thing I didn't do is start entrepreneurship earlier. And also go into the US earlier in terms of Magro. I help entrepreneurs a lot. I've been asked to talk to various people. I do entrepreneurship talks. Friends of mine ask me, will I talk to people, give advice? I recently did an event for AgTech UCD. There was a new cohort of companies coming out of there, and they use Magro as a case study, and I talked to them about my learnings. And one of the questions I was asked was, why are you guys not involved in Ireland? And to me, it was a red flag straight away for the guy who asked the question, not in a bad way, but in my particular case, 0.0001% of my business is in Ireland. So going international, and if you can go international as fast as you can, you need to do it in a targeted way. Ireland is very small, so unless your market is niche and it's in Ireland, you need to think big and think international from early on. And Enterprise Ireland are a fantastic help when you do go international in terms of their market supports. When I was asked to enter the EOI experience in 2020, I originally said no. I suspect if a survey was done, most entrepreneurs would, because they're too busy running the operation. And they're worried, and I was worried about the day-to-day, I need to focus on the business. And after some gentle encouragement by one of the EY personnel, I decided to do it. And I'm so glad she convinced me to do it, because it's been an incredible journey. I've met the most amazing entrepreneurs, got to hear some of their failings, some of their successes, how they solve particular problems. And it's in that alumni group that we have on WhatsApp, you can see them, they have each other's back, they share ideas, they help each other out. Every single day somebody will jump in and say, does anybody know somebody in this area? And inevitably somebody jumps in. And they're there to help, for both charity, for new entrepreneurs, for new businesses. And now I see the latest initiative by EY is that we have some of the alumni that are doing new business ventures, and they're going to pitch to the alumni and see who wants to invest in their new vehicles going forward. So it's going from strength to strength. And I think it's probably one of the best things I've done in my career to become part of the EY alumni. You go into the event, if you get to the final, that's it. If you win it, it's a bonus, but you're in the alumni forever. Can Ireland be a big player in sustainability as a nation? It's a big challenge. Again, I go back to earlier on, but I see massive opportunity. We all know we need this food, energy and water. So even in crisis, farmers needed to feed the world. You needed energy to heat your homes, and we needed water to stay alive. So I see nothing but opportunity. I think there's a slow mindset change within Ireland, within the government, to promote sustainability. I think people realise we must hit our targets. We're going to be fined if we don't. And I'm also very encouraged by young people today who I think have less fear than we had as a generation. I think they've learned from multinationals, and their parents have as well, about being brave, go out to that big bad world and conquer it. So I think I no longer fear that entrepreneurs coming through don't have that, they don't have the skill set or the tools to take on these challenges. I'm very encouraged that they do. I think we need the infrastructure for them. I think, if I look at university, somebody the other day said to me, what course do you think I should do? And I tried to narrow down what they were studying, and I said, well, there's a new course in UCD around business and sustainability. And they've since come back to me and said, God, I didn't know that existed. Now that's wrong. They should know that existed because it's such an important area, but we need graduates coming through degrees like that want to get involved in sustainability. The big problem we have at the moment is that it's new, it's novel, there's no standards, people don't know what to benchmark against. There's a lot of greenwashing and people raising huge sums of money on the back of false claims. So how do we solve those problems? Well, some of it's going to be education, some of it's going to be companies like Magro leading by example and being transparent about their impact metrics. But we need to look at everything we do going forward. If we talk about sustainability and climate change in the same sentence, I think you pollute the message. I said people just get confused and go, well, I'm not sure I believe in climate change, and people have different opinions. It's a bit like, some people saying they want the vaccine or don't want the vaccine. It's the same with climate change. Is it real or not? As a scientist, I firmly believe it's real. I'm a data guy, but everybody has their own opinion. But what people can't deny is that there's a sustainability issue, because if we need 2 planet Earths at current consumption rates by 2050, nobody can argue with that. That's one thing nobody can argue with. And then climate change will make that worse, and sustainability will make climate change worse. So we have a massive problem to solve anyway, and let's start with the sustainability. And doing things like the government are doing now in Ireland, which is giving people low interest loans and grants to retrofit their houses, that's a start. But we need to have the vision in government and large companies and even SMEs about collaborating together, because the problem is so big, it won't have one small thing won't fix it. We need everybody working together, collaborating, small companies, big companies and governments. And if I was to leave one legacy, I think it's that I cared about the team, my family, my friends, the community, of course the planet, and that I didn't take a step back and I didn't sit back, and that I'm doing my small part to solve one of the greatest food and water challenges this planet will ever face by supporting the sustainable intensification of global food production.